Okay, yeah. And anyways, thank you for coming, Mari. I really
Thank you for
appreciate it.
having me. Thank you.
Um, but I really want to start with your background and your journey because I feel like that's even more important than the brand you're building because I feel like you've personified a lot of what you've put into the brand through your past and your journey. But I'd love to know just your story and your background and whether you want to start from childhood and who makes you you today through maybe some of the modeling career and all that. And then we'll get to the brand building part.
Well, I guess I'll start.
Yeah,
My name
start.
is Mari. I was born in Brazil and I grew up there until I was 15. And then I got into modeling. Um, I moved to São Paulo. I'm from a small city in Brazil called Uberlândia. And then I moved to São Paulo and I was modeling there for like a year from 15 to 16. And then an opportunity came for me to go into international traveling. And then I went when I was 16 to China. That was my first country as a model.
Mhm.
And then and then I lived in China for a whole year. And I went back to Brazil after that. And I decided
So you
that
lived in China at 17.
yeah, 16.
Wow, for a year by yourself.
Yes, yes. My parents had to actually like sign it from like with the judge
Yeah.
to let me out of the
Yeah,
country.
yeah.
And when I was getting out, I remember the officers, I guess like the police in Brazil, they were like, "Are you sure you want to go? Like, you're so young." And I was like, "Of course." I was so excited, and I also felt like I'm not that young. You don't
Yeah.
think that you are so young. You think you are already an adult and that you were ready to own the world.
Yeah.
And that's what I felt like I wanted to go and conquer. This was like my dream. And I was like, I'm going overseas. And so I lived in China for a whole year, which was shocking. The culture there is so different than my culture in Brazil. For many reasons, I became vegetarian when I was there because I was just like, this culture shock was so big.
And you feel like the meat markets and all that?
Yeah, the
Just
meat
seeing.
markets, they eat very different stuff than I
Yeah.
was used to in Brazil. A lot of the times the animals are like alive, so I was like, what? I can't, it was
Yeah.
just too raw for me and I was so
Yeah.
young. But fast forward, I decided that that's what I wanted to do actually with my life. I had a lot of fun and I learned a lot. So I went back to Asia and I lived in all the countries in Asia, basically, just not Japan. So I went back to China, then I went to Singapore, I lived in Hong Kong, Indonesia, Thailand, the Philippines, Korea. I was going everywhere and I would always kind of go back to China because that's where I made more money.
Yeah.
So I would go for like the pictures and the experience in other countries. And, you will get like a contract with an agency for like 2 months or 3 months,
Mhm.
depending on how work would go. And then I did the same thing in Europe. So I moved to Europe and I did like the major cities like Milan, Paris. I also went to Germany, I went to Spain, I did Portugal. And I also went to some countries that normally people don't go for modeling, but like Istanbul in Turkey. I lived there for 4 months. Then I would go back, like after go to Germany, and then I would go back to Istanbul. And like I did a lot of like my major magazines. A lot of the most amazing photographers are in Istanbul, um, Merton Marcos, Koray Biran, Koray Parlak. There's a lot of like really good photographers. And I did a lot of magazines there and stuff that helped me later apply for my visa to the US. Because at the time when I started modeling was 2005. And so around this time when I was living in Europe was 2010.
Mhm.
And Instagram wasn't like a thing yet. And so you had to actually collect your magazines, your physical magazines, send it to the
So wild.
US to apply for the visa. So I got my first visa when I was already traveling for like 5 years or 6 years. And then I got my first visa and I moved to the US 2011.
So you'd have to
Elite
send them the portfolio
the
basically. Yeah.
portfolio so that an agency will apply the visa for you. So like Elite was my first
Yeah.
agency. So I collected all my magazines and my jobs and I would literally like ask like photographers to sign. There was this like little paper the US government gave you to sign. So every job I had, like I would had like a signature from the photographer, the stylist to prove that I was a real model. And then you get the visa and then I moved to the US, which was my dream. And since then, I've been here now. 13 years.
Where'd you
Yeah.
move? You moved to California, or
I moved first to Miami,
yeah?
and then I was living there for like 4 months, and then I made a move to New York, and I was in New York for 7 years until, yeah, 2018, 19. Then the pandemic hit, and then after the pandemic, I moved to LA, and now I'm here.
So what made you? You had such a successful run, and you've opened your mind up with so many cities.
Mhm.
What was the first point in time where you were like, "This is not the only thing that's going to define who I am in terms of like modeling"? Because clearly,
Mhm.
we'll get to what you're doing today, but
Yeah.
clearly you've made a shift that maybe complements what you're doing on the modeling side. But
Yeah.
was there ever a point where you're like, you had the intuition of saying like, "Hey, at a certain point, I want to diversify," or was it like a certain moment, or was it just a gradual over time thinking about what else you can be doing?
I think it was a gradual. I think for a long time, modeling was like my dream and I wanted to do it. And that's all I wanted to do. But also, getting into this career that is not going to last forever,
Hmm.
that, you're not going to look the same always. And, this career can be very vain. And I started to feel a little bit like unfulfilled by, modeling, and just the message to just like look perfect all the time, like conflicted me in many ways.
Mm,
And I also, when Instagram and all of that started to become like intertwined with modeling, and I just lost my identity on what was a model,
mm,
like I just learned in a different way. Like you have to get your jobs through an agency, and, even going to castings at the time, like I had a map in my hands, and now everything is on the phone, and your jobs are now on the phone,
yeah,
and there's all these other girls with more followers than you. And, it's just became like so much like transaction. And
yeah,
in many ways it was great too, because I see like the inclusivity, and that people can, be who they are, and they can be accepted and feel beautiful too. And there's a good side to it. But like for me personally, I was just like, I don't want to have to do something on my Instagram so I am still a model, or, I wanted
it
to
wasn't as
be
authentic
free.
anymore. Yeah,
Yeah, it wasn't. And like, I think with all of, the internet, and, which can be great, like I said, it lost a little bit the magic of fashion, that it used to be so exclusive, and so, that unachievable look that is so different, that you look and you're like, wow, it's not for you to look like that. It's just an inspiration. It's almost like art,
yeah,
that I felt like for a period of time when Instagram came and everything, it just got lost. And, now I feel like I am more of an influencer than a model. And I think everything is kind of together. And that is great. And it helps with my brand. But I think like the modeling thing for me, what I dreamed of changed. And then with that, I decided that like I wanted to take a step back and wanted to create something that was meaningful, that would create an impact in the world, and not just, looking pretty in
yeah,
front of a
yeah.
camera. That didn't fulfill me anymore.
Well, I think it's really special that you've been able to at least look back and say you were successful at that initial achievement of going out and being a model for what it meant at that time, which
Yeah.
was really doing it in the scene where there wasn't so much like being able to just have a million followers the next day because you've
Yeah.
exposed yourself on so many channels. Do you feel, because something you mentioned is really important. So you felt like it's lost the magic or like the excitement or that piece that's missing from when you were doing it in like 2007.
Mhm.
Do you think that exists outside of digital today? Like where is that magic and that like lust and that spark happening in that industry now? Is it like in closed doors or like at fashion shows? Because it's been so omnipresent on digital where like we were talking about this earlier. It's like AI, like you don't know that if I put up pictures on the screen,
Mhm.
it's really hard to have discernment now of what's real and what's not. And to your point, that's probably really I assume frustrating
Yeah.
when you've worked so hard and your industry's worked so hard to
Yeah.
make it so special to capture moments, right? Like, as a
Yeah,
model.
I think the world is evolving, and like it can be scary. Like maybe the magic is done for me, but for future generations, they didn't experience
They
what
don't
I've
know what that
experienced,
feels like,
and they
yeah.
have a different type of magic. And,
Mm,
like then I have to learn, as, a person from a generation before, what's the new magic.
I
But
know.
for me, what I looked up to was like, the Golden Girls, Giselle Bündchen, and those girls, like, and that was my
Yeah.
magic. And I think like now the world is evolving to new magic, and I'm excited to learn about AI and all of that. I think that it still exists. There are still a lot of like supermodels that, I talk about it with my friends and they don't know who they are because they are really just in the modeling world on fashion shows, like you
Yeah.
said, or like covers of magazines. There are still that part of the work is still there, is less now. But I think there is a new, magic out there
Yeah.
that I'm excited to
Well,
learn.
just that answer, I think, answered my next question, which is like you have such a strong sense of like curiosity.
Hmm.
And that's so important. Otherwise, you get stuck in a single identity
Hmm.
and you can't shift because you
Right.
look at all those things as like threats to
Yeah.
your current identity of like, oh,
Yeah.
AI, that's going to take over my job. And now, like, look at
Yeah.
these girls.
In the
And
beginning, I was
yeah,
like, oh my gosh, AI is going to take all the jobs. It's so unfair.
yeah.
But now, like, there is, like, I think you can look to the future and be like, it can be like something that we can find ways to work around this. Like when Instagram came, I was like, okay, so what are we gonna do now? We're all gonna be influencers. That's gonna destroy our careers. And what our
Mm,
models gonna be like? And now I'm like, oh, there is a way to make money on your Instagram, on your TikTok. I think there is not an answer yet about AI and how can we incorporate our lives as human beings with a machine, but I
hmm.
think we will learn. There is going to be ways to monetize and to, there is ways already, but I
Yeah,
think the average person will find their ways to, what's the future going to look like now that AI is included. And I think it's going to be great.
yeah.
I'm hopeful
I
because
think so too.
I think if you
That's a
look
very
at it,
positive attitude.
yeah, if you look
Cause
at it in a
yeah,
negative way, I think we have everything to lose because AI is here to stay. And in the beginning,
exactly.
like I was kind of skeptical again, and I think we always are with something that we don't understand. But I think trying to understand it and as quickly as you can,
Yeah.
then you can get ahead of the game and
And
create
just
something
being
for
open minded
yourself.
is super healthy. It's a healthy
Right.
perspective to have.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you will feel threatened and then you'll
Exactly.
judge it and you'll resent it. And then you
Yes.
just get smaller, right?
100%. I
From
agree.
personality standpoint and brand. So, all right. So that was your background, your sort of career in modeling.
Yeah.
How does this shift into more of like the brand world? Because that's a big
Yeah.
risk,
Yeah.
honestly, more than anything.
Very
It's
big. I mean, also like a big risk for like I've built my image kind of like in a public way, and then I starting a brand is very scary because you kind of blend your life with your brands, and so you're like, this has
mm-hmm.
to work because I need to,
Yeah.
be a part of it, and it's so much of my identity. So it comes with a lot of pressure, but a lot of excitement to do something new. I think for me, started a brand, it kind of like happened in LA. Like I met a friend of mine that kind of like encouraged me to, start a brand. He's like, you have a story to tell. So, why don't you maybe start a brand, and connected me with like this um brand like creator
Sure.
kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
their names is Center. I ended up working with them and I love them. And they are they create brands, and if you have an idea, you can come to them and they will give
Like
you
an
like a whole,
incubator. Yeah.
yeah, they
Yeah.
will give you like a whole, like even the name and everything, which I had for my brand when I met them. But yeah, so I met these people, and in the beginning I wanted to do sunscreen.
Yeah.
And then because in Brazil
Yeah.
it's so sunny and we are always at the beach, and then realize that like it's very difficult to make sunscreen. And also in the US there's different laws comparing to like if I wanted to make it in Brazil, the ingredients I could use, it was different.
Hmm.
And so I started to like ask myself like, what do I care about? What is important to me? Like I don't want to make like a bikini brand,
Just to make it or just
just
to
to
make
make a
money.
brand, yes,
Yeah.
or just
Yeah.
because like models go into
Yeah.
like if they're making a bikini brand or something. And then I was like, okay, what do I really love and that I don't have in the US?
Yeah.
And then quickly I was like, it's lymphatic drainage. There is not a product for lymphatic drainage in the United States. Even the lymphatic drainage professionals that are here, they smuggle their products from Brazil because we have specific products with specific
They
ingredients.
literally smuggle them in. Yeah.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And I'm like throwing all my girls under the bus now, but it's like true.
Like
Like,
this is how
and
you got
they're
what you
all
got.
like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, we need your product. You need to
Yeah.
make like big size for our spas because we have specific products in Brazil that, have ingredients from the Amazon rainforest that are here to stimulate the lymphatic
Yep.
system. And we can get into that like later. But I thought of like I needed to get a lymphatic drainage product here. And so why not create a brand that was lymphatic drainage related? It's something that I'm very passionate about. I have been doing lymphatics since I think I'm 13 years old.
Wow.
My mom,
And I feel like I've only just started hearing about it, why it's which is crazy because you've been
yeah,
doing it
I think it's very new in
for a
the
while.
US, but it's very enrooted in our culture in Brazil.
Mm.
And it's also everywhere. Like here, you have to like find who do you know somebody, you have to kind of ask, and it's very expensive in Brazil. It's in every corner, in every city, and you can find a lymphatic drainage person,
Yeah.
and it's very cheap comparing to here. And so I was like, I need to, make this product. And bring it here. So I got connected to a lab in Brazil that ended up being the same lab as Sol de Janeiro, the
Mhm.
Brazilian Boom Boom. And I explained to them like I want to do a
Which
product
your
that
brand will
is
be bigger than them, so they better
huh?
watch out. I said that your brand.
Yes.
Before we get to your brand, I think there was something important that you said that I wanna explore because
hmm
a lot of the conversations I have with founders and entrepreneurs, and I meet people at very early stages
hmm
of their identity and building a brand to, like, really big ones, right, that are just looking to reestablish who they are. But something you said really resonated with me where you had this inflection point where you basically had to risk your personal identity to invest in something where you didn't know it would work at all, right? Where this goes, how big this becomes.
Yeah.
And you already had such a stable platform to a degree, right? And I don't know the details of it, but from what it seems like from the outside perspective, like a very stable platform, something you were proud of building.
Yeah.
What was like the internal dialogue for you to really put you over the hump of saying, I'm ready to risk that and step into this and like fuck it, right? Like let's go for it because I think that's the point where most people would stop. Especially because you had built something. This was like you're going to build another brand now. You had built the Mari brand. Like
hmm
you yourself are a brand to a degree, right? And so I guess what was that dialogue with yourself and being able to like overcome maybe the challenge of risking identity and personal
I
brand?
think honestly, I was getting really tired from modeling. And I think that was one of the
Mm,
biggest things that pushed me
yeah.
to start something new, the excitement of starting something new that I was very passionate about. Um, I think that was like in the beginning what excited me. I was like, oh, I can actually create a brand. This is one of the great things about living in the United States. Like, I could not have started this brand in Brazil. Like, the opportunities that I had here and how encouraging this country is for people to just start an idea from
Hmm.
zero. A lot of the greatest ideas in the world come from here.
Yeah.
And so I think like the environment here and just the excitement of like, oh, I can make a brand that I
Hmm.
own, and I think that was the beginning of like when everything started and it kind of felt like I didn't have a team, I didn't have
Yeah.
nothing, it was just an idea.
Yeah.
But the idea of like that this could be possible and slowly like when I first like saw how the logo was going to look like and I started to choose the colors and we landed on lymphatic drainage and tightening lotions. So when I landed on those like the whole road of creating this brand from scratch just kept me going because it was so fun and excited.
So it was almost like you had known to a degree that you weren't being fully fulfilled by
Right.
the current career
Yeah.
and the excitement of building this a
Yeah.
physical product.
Yeah, and it just made me have like a new purpose in life. Like I'm
Yeah,
doing something that I can impact people for real.
yeah,
Not like, obviously in modeling too, like you help people look up to you in a way that like they can feel confident, but they can also feel threatened.
yep,
I wanted to create something that people felt confident all the time. That especially women as they grow and get older, like I wanted to create something that really was going to make a difference and was going to help people from the inside to the outside,
mhm,
you know?
yeah, and it's also I feel like and maybe I'm speaking for you in saying this, but I feel like it is very authentic to your journey and to it sounds like to your heritage and to what you grew up with. So it's not like someone's like, "Hey, Mario, go chase this idea. It's going to make you 10 million bucks,
Yeah.
100 million bucks, whatever it is." It was more so like, this is a extension of
Yeah.
you and the way you
Because
think.
in the beginning, I didn't like, obviously, I don't have a business background. Like,
Yeah.
I dropped out of high
By the way,
school.
that makes the best founders, as you know. Yeah,
Hopefully.
yeah.
But like I dropped out of high school to start modeling. So in the beginning, I didn't even study the market or saw
Mhm.
like, oh, is there a gap for lymphatic drainage? I was just like, lymphatic drainage is what I know and love. There is no products here, so let's go with this. And I think like before and after pictures and clinical trials and all of that stuff will prove the benefits and the reality of this product, that it works. But
Yeah,
I really didn't have a plan like that, like I didn't know. I just was like, this is, gonna work. And
yeah,
fast forward 2 years later, 2.5 years later, now it's all everyone's talking about. It's lymphatic drainage. People
yeah,
want to know what is lymphatic drainage and why, you have to help your lymphatic system. Like, how does it work? What is the lymphatic system? And there is this big, like, buzz around it, and people are very curious to know, what is and why do you,
yeah,
look smaller and your skin looks tighter and all
yeah.
of that. And I'm grateful that I kind of like had this, idea at a time where it felt like irrelevant.
Mm,
Sometimes when I would raise money or talk to like especially men about the product and what I was doing, they were like, "But what is that lymphatic
yeah, yeah,
drainage? But I never heard of that." And now it's very different. I talk to many venture capitals and
yeah,
like many VCs that are like, "Oh, lymphatic drainage, we want to know about this. Like, this is like the trend now, and people seem to be way more aware. And I think it's just going to grow to like the same way that it is in Brazil, because it is also come with health benefits,
yeah.
from the inside. So people are very into like longevity and, how do you stay
Mhm.
healthy? How do you stay young? How do you flush out toxins? And that's all,
Yeah.
related to lymphatic.
And I wanna get into the actual product in a second, but another thing you mentioned is also a really scary thing for most people is, like, you didn't come from a business background. You obviously are very passionate and,
Yeah.
knowledgeable about this, which is, the biggest hurdle, but how do you think and potentially inspire people of, like, building a community of whether it's I think you mentioned the word connections are obviously earlier, which I think are
Hmm.
so invaluable.
Yeah.
But how do you think about placing the right people near you or doing it in a way which isn't transactional? Because I feel like some people don't like asking for help from people around them because they feel like they're being needy or whatever. But I even try to advise early founders. I'm like, you have these amazing people around you, and people are always looking to help people they love. And
Yeah.
how do you build on that because you didn't come from a community where there was people ready to throw money at you from a venture capitalist standpoint like you're saying, or it's not like you were sitting on piles of gold where you're just like, hey, I can make this into a huge brand tomorrow. You're literally, I feel like, at least from my perspective, building this brick by brick.
Yes.
And there's a lot of authenticity in that, but there's also a lot of hurdles and challenges.
Yeah.
So how do you think about building that initial ecosystem and community of people that you want to keep close to you, or if you have any just thoughts around that, because I think that's a hard thing to think about.
Yeah, I think like sometimes it felt really scary because I was like, okay, we launched this brand. Do people really care? Like, are they gonna, are they gonna like get into it?
Yeah.
But I think um it's persistency. Like you have like I really believe in this brand. And even though like we are still small and we are still like a startup, like I know where I'm going. And I think like having conviction in your idea and persisting every day, it's would be my advice. Like sometimes I'm like we're shooting videos and doing stuff like to teach people or
Mm.
whatever it is that we have for our social media plan, and sometimes I'm just like, no one's gonna watch this
Yeah.
or no one's gonna
I feel like that
care.
about this podcast
Yeah,
sometimes. I'm like, but you have to build it brick by brick,
yeah,
right?
it's
And
like
it's like,
slowly. And I
yeah.
think like there is nothing like time as well. Like there, like in the beginning, like there wasn't anything to back me. So I had to create all those, like when time went by, now like 2.5 years later, I look back a year later and I'm like, wow, I was in a much, like say, worse place. I was in a much like I didn't have the
You might
knowledge
not
that
even
I
have this
have that.
physical product, some of
Yeah,
these, yeah,
so
right?
like I think also like you have to allow yourself that like enough time will go by so you can learn. I've been learning since since the beginning, since the day one, since even these products weren't even real, and I
Mhm.
was already like learning how do I make a product, like how. And I think those things are very valuable, and at the time maybe you won't see it because you are living in that moment. But I think allowing time to show you, and that you can also show yourself like a year ago I was here, and then now a year later I'm here, so I can only imagine what the
Where you'll be
future
in
will.
5 years,
Yeah,
10 years.
exactly.
So, how do you? Because 'cause I'm asking this more selfishly too, because I think about this a lot. I'm such a proponent of, like, great things take time,
Yes,
and they don't disappear very quickly too. We talked about another episode with someone where it's like some of the best brands are built over 10, 20 years, and they
exactly.
stay and they're foundational because it wasn't transactional. It
Yes.
wasn't to, like, just make 100,000,000 your first year and then hopefully sell. You were trying to build a
Yes.
legacy,
I
right?
honestly like this gives me so much anxiety to think that like I need to hit a number. I'm like,
Yes.
I'm
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
create a cool brand that resonates with me
yeah.
and with people. I need to make the brand the biggest foundation of this brand, like the branding of it, how it's gonna look, what people are gonna say about it, like the colors, everything, like every
You've
little
done a really good
details
job with
about the
that, yeah.
job, about every little
Yeah, yeah,
detail about the brand is thought through. And I can't just like I would love to just make 100 million the first year,
yeah.
but if I don't make it, I'm fine. Like I really am proud of this brand, and I think that matters more than like eventually it will get there, that I'm going to
Mhm.
start making all of this money and I'm going to hire the right people. And I still have a really small team. It's just me and Nicole here in the
Yeah,
US.
she's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
love
yeah,
Nicole, and she really is like my right and left hand. She
yeah,
does so much for the brand, and she's just so like passionate about it too. And she's my really everything in the
yeah,
brand. But we have our team in Brazil and everything, but we don't have like I am the founder, the CEO. We are very hands-on. And I'm proud of that. And sometimes we don't hit the numbers that we want to hit, but I know we're gonna get there.
yeah, and I
We are the first people talking about lymphatic drainage. So it's like it's very new. We have a lot of people to talk to still,
yeah.
a lot of.
I think it's such a special attitude you have on that, and I noticed that the first time we had spoken, I think we were on a call talking about
Mhm.
Sephora or Ulta, whatever it was, but you had such a grounded response. I forgot what the question was. We were talking about growth and, like,
Mhm.
where's the brand going? And you were just so grounded in what was today
Yeah.
and, like, where you're at today, and you're so confident in knowing that, hey, if I put the right effort in today, genuinely and authentically, this will be a big brand,
Yeah.
and it'll take its time to do that. And how do you wear blinders to what's going on in this, like, transactional community? Because there are so many brands, and I don't want to do them a disservice. There's some great brands that grow really quickly, but some really great brands that don't. How do you wear blinders to not worrying about the ones that are just manufacturing their growth, just pulling levers transactionally, and instead, like, not as focused as you are maybe on the product or the brand or what rooms you show up in?
I mean, I think like my whole life I've never, and I think because I didn't grow up in America,
Mm, so
um
that's a hack.
maybe
Don't
maybe
yes,
that's
that's a
one.
hack.
I don't know.
Yeah,
But I never, or maybe because I also didn't grow up with technology and social media, I never compare myself with anyone. Like I just don't.
that's a
And
gift.
I think
Yeah,
that I can look at a girl that's beautiful and admire her, but never in a way that's like envy. Like I think that I have what I have and other people have what they have. And if some people are more successful than me, it's never in a way that's like you, it's always like, how can I be like that? Like how can
yeah,
I learn to be like. So I think when I think of my brand and I see other brands that are successful, I want to study and see what they did, but never in a way that's like, oh my god, like I'm behind, what do I do, like I don't have like, because if it doesn't work, like I know I tried I like genuinely I know I'm doing everything I can. I genuinely love this brand, and I don't think like it would do me any service to like be looking at the other numbers of the other brands, and just it would just create so that
yeah.
I just block it. Like it's like a natural block that I'm like I'm on my own journey. Every brand is on their own journey. So like how can I even compare? Like there are people that come in and they are already celebrities. So of course their brands are gonna take off faster than mine.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I'm on my own journey. And I think that's like
That's
what
such a powerful mindset. Like, I'm sure you know that yourself, but, like, most people do not have that. It's a very difficult mindset to, like, rewire if you're not built that way,
yeah, I feel
you
like
know?
I've learned
It's
over
like, I
time
went to
and
Hoffman, and I'm still working on it. I did.
we were
Like,
talking about that the other
yeah.
day. And don't remember with who, and like talking about like Hoffman and how
Yeah, I
that
went this
changes
last
you. And
September. It
really,
was incredible, but
I'm so
literally
scared to go to these places. I'm
no,
like,
you're literally bringing my body, like, energetically back to Hoffman because
right.
a lot of the conversations are so, much about being grounded in your narrative and your worth and, like, this comparison stuff that is, I'm 33, but I did have the tail end of my, um, college years, I guess, or whatever, when you start developing a sense of self, really is typically in America, at least, that's when you're developing a sense of self because you're not, after college, you break the mold,
Right.
right? And you're like, you all decide to do what you're not going on the same routine as everyone else.
Hmm.
But that's when Instagram hit and that's when all these things hit. And then I mean, I truly believe in what you said, even with Magnetic, like this podcast, I wasn't doing it because I wanted to have 100 million viewers, right? I wanted to do it because even if one person outside of this room is hearing us and is like, fuck yeah, I want to build like that, that's special,
Exactly.
right? Instead of
Yeah.
getting 100 million that maybe
Yeah.
were,
And like, if you keep doing it, I was talking to my fiance these days ago, and he was like,
I love
bro,
it. Now you get to see fiance. How amazing is
exactly. It's
that?
very
Yes.
strange,
Yeah.
weird. I also don't like this word so much, but
Yeah.
sometimes when I say boyfriend, it's also weird because it's just strange.
Yeah. It'll
Like,
it'll grow. It'll
yeah,
grow on you
I
guys.
mean, we'll be husband and wife soon, so
Yeah.
that will be a better.
Yeah, yeah.
Fiance is just a weird
Yeah,
word.
it is.
Just
Yeah.
like, I don't know. But anyways, he was telling me how he heard this, I don't know from who, that he's never seen somebody that's grinding for 10 years and don't make it. Like, so I think that like it will happen
I love that.
eventually, but
Yeah.
I putting a timeline of like when it should hit and when it should happen and when it should hit 100, that just creates like first inauthenticity.
Inauthenticity, yeah.
Inauthentic,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I can't say that
Hey,
word.
that's why I was waiting for you to pronounce your brand name because I'm not gonna be the first one that does it on this show. So you're
Oh
saying
my
it first.
gosh. Yeah. So I feel like it
Yeah.
creates like not a
Yeah.
genuine like outcome, but also it just creates so much pressure that's unnecessary. I think like surprisingly you can just maybe hit that 100 million. You never even know where it's coming
Mm.
from. And I think like I think I like that better.
Yeah.
I don't like to set a time for like I depend on other people to look at my brand and see it. And so if I have to be like telling myself like I need all these sales and not like it's just living in an unrealistic way.
And I also feel like if you are living in that world, you miss the enjoyment of the process
Yeah,
because I feel like every time I speak to you, there's a little bit there's been progress every time, but there's so much detail and thought that goes into some of the pieces you're making that will make it such a strong foundation.
exactly.
For instead of just being like, "Oh, let me just get I know I wanna make this lymphatic drainage effect, let me just get whatever ingredients that make sense," but you I feel like you've spent time.
In the beginning, our other product, the Bye Bye Cellulites, when we made it, it was a little bit too liquid. It was like it would leak from the
Mm.
from the bottle, and we saw that from our reviews on Amazon. And I was like, oh wow, it's like when it gets warm or when you're traveling, it was leaking from the packaging. And so we went to our lab in Brazil and we
I
changed the
love that.
formulation, and now it's a little thicker. Like this is like a year and a half ago. So there are stuff that like I learned with the process that maybe if I had sold millions and millions of bottles, like then there would have been so much more complaint and
Mm.
my brand wouldn't be as reliable as it is right now. Like so since we launched, like we also perfected the brand so much more from people's reviews. Like, and I'm always open for like people to tell me, there is this, like even on the lymphatic drainage effect, there was this one product that wasn't like accepted in Europe, that was seen as like not clean, and we are a clean brand. And then I went to my lab and I was like, what is this product, this like this ingredient? And they were like, oh, we can make it without it. And I was like, So let's do
So
it.
why aren't we doing it?
Yeah, and now our products is like even cleaner, but it's just like there are a lot of things that you learn and you perfected your product, and when you hit those like huge numbers, it's like you're ready.
And it's
You're
so
more
crazy
ready.
to me that this small decision that you made to actually listen to your customer
Mhm.
will change the course of your entire business over time, because there's brands that will potentially look at that and be like, "You know what? Let's just work on hiding that review, and
Exactly.
let's just bulldoze through it
Yeah,
and
I
just keep
cannot.
selling more, and then the average will go up."
Yeah,
Or there's people like you, which I feel like comes more from, like, the world of, like, hospitality and, like, caring about your customer,
yeah,
is every customer matters in the beginning.
for
And so
sure.
you being able to actually go back to a lab and saying, "Hey, just because of 1 or 2 reviews, I'm gonna, like, go back and really help create a
Yeah.
better product for my customer," that's special.
Yeah, I use my products too, and
Yeah,
I want the best outcome when I use
yeah,
it. And so I want people to have the same experience that I have that didn't exist in the US. Like, how can I, provide this to everyone else too? So, like, I have a lymphatic drainage product now, and everyone else can have too. And I want everyone to have the same experience that I have.
yeah. So tell me about what makes, whether it's any of these products, but what makes it so special from an ingredient standpoint? Like,
Right. So, our ingredients are, first of all, our products are all made in Brazil. We make everything in Brazil. It says made in Brazil on the packaging, and we import everything to the US because I wanted it to be like authentic, and I really wanted to use ingredients that work. And I think one of the reasons why there is no lymphatic drainage products here is because there aren't the ingredients. And so,
mm,
when I talked to my lab, I went to the Amazon rainforest in person to meet the communities that are growing these ingredients.
really?
So
Yeah.
I like got to see a guarana for the first time in my life, and the guarana is one of the ingredients inside of both of our products.
Guarana. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it has more caffeine than coffee, and it really helps stimulate your lymphatic system
That's like a
and like,
bean, right? Guarana
yeah,
bean. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
guarana is a fruit.
It's a fruit.
Yeah, and it is like it's so cool looking. It looks like an eye, and it has like the outside of it is red,
Yeah,
and when you pop the seeds, what is inside,
yeah.
it's like a white and black, but it looks like it's an eye, like looking at you. It's very strange.
I'm gonna look it up later.
Um yeah, you have to look it up.
Yeah.
But there are ingredients in the Amazon rainforest that are very good for the lymphatic system that help awake the lymphatic system. And what I mean is like it helps the water retention to move around because of blood circulation and microcirculation that
Mm.
these products create. So you put it in your skin, and it's almost like if you're putting like a lot of like concentrated caffeine in your skin. It helps like the blood flow faster, and that helps your lymphatic system to work better because the lymphatic system works hand in hand with your circulatory system. Because the blood is flowing in that area that you are applying and creating that microcirculation, it helps that water retention to be moved around faster to your lymph nodes, and your lymph nodes will then eliminate from your
And then
body.
how do you determine, like, how much strength to put in it? Like, because I'm sure I know you can feel that one, and you, like,
Yeah, so
physically feel the
yes,
burn,
the
and
bye-bye cellulite, we made it with like extra concentration of caffeine
yeah.
and
So you're getting the
guarana.
functionality, because I think
So
that's
yes,
important to know, because a lot of these products,
yes,
just generally on the market, especially in today's retail world, is like they're not functional.
yes,
They're
exactly.
more like, a facade for the real function, right? And this one I feel like is actually
Yeah.
based on functionality.
Yeah, so like this product, I told my lab specifically like this is very like common in Brazil. There is a lot of products in Brazil that like make that burning sensation,
Mm,
and here there isn't really that many. And I told my lab I want people to feel like this product is working,
yeah.
and so like we created this product that like when you apply in your skin at first, you don't feel anything, and if you apply in like part of your body that's like that there's no fat, let's say your hands, you won't feel it. This product like penetrates inside of your skin,
Wow.
and when it finds the fat layers, that's when it starts working. There's like
Mhm.
molecules inside of this product as well that are made and done to target fat. So whenever you like put this product on, 15 minutes later, you're gonna start feeling like
Yeah.
it's working
Yeah.
because the burning sensation will come, and that those molecules together with the coffee and the guarana, it starts stimulating that area and starts making the blood flow over there, and that's why like you see less cellulites, and because you start to stimulate that lymphatic system there, and you feel like you can feel the
Yeah.
burning.
How did you come up with the name?
Gente means people.
Yeah.
I wanted to make a brand for everyone, but also because I say gente all the time. Gente is an expression
Like my
in
people?
Brazil.
Like
No, gente is an
Shanchi.
expression that
Shanchi.
means almost like an oh my god, like it can be for good or bad. Like if I'm telling you a story and I'm like, oh my god, let me tell you what happened to that, you say like, gente, you don't know, I need to tell you this. Or like if somebody does something like annoying, you're
Yeah.
like, oh, gente. It's like it's an expression of like, oh my god, like so annoying.
Yeah.
It's just an expression of oh my god.
Mm.
And especially people in my state in Brazil, Minas Gerais, we say gente all the time.
Yeah.
And my
It's incredible.
American friends started saying
Just started
gente
saying it.
too
Yeah.
before like their English sentences. And it just became a thing that like I always say gente. And then gente also means people. So it just became like that thing. It had to be that name,
Yeah.
you know?
How do you think about, because I do believe this is for the people, and how do you get it in more hands? Like, are you doing anything on the marketing side, activations? Because I'm always so curious in that because it's such a cool
Yeah.
canvas where you get to kind of choose how you want people to experience the brand outside of
Yeah.
the amazing, box we just opened it up. Like, there's obviously the brand experience and
Yeah.
the actual product experience, but how do you foresee people experiencing the brand IRL and like building that connection with the consumer? Because I feel like that's such especially you're taking the path of building a very grounded brand over time. What's your plan on like building that in-person connection?
It's very interesting because I'm still learning as
Yeah.
well. I
Yeah.
obviously I want the most amount of people to know the brand.
Mhm.
But at first, because I have all my network with like different models and
Mhm.
celebrities and people that I know in my world, and people that just see my hustle and want to support and help me. So, I have some friends that I can ask, like, can you post? And I know that they're gonna drive some sales and everything. So I started kind of like that with my own social media
Yeah.
and just like doing some events here and there and just like trying to put the word out there, working with a PR that like can, put you in like the magazines and all of that side as well. And I never really knew that like ads were a thing in the beginning. So like we never did ads, or
Yeah.
so it was
Yeah.
everything, all the sales that we did in the almost the first whole year
Organic.
was organic,
Yeah.
and it was like my Instagram and my friends were posting every time we would launch something new, like this guasha. I sent it to all my friends, and I was like, you guys post it and everything, and like that would create like awareness and all eyes in our brand. But it doesn't necessarily create sales. Sometimes I have like all this like my amazing model friends with all these followers like posting, but sometimes it really takes like the micro influencers or the advertisement to
Mhm.
get to that those people that you aren't reaching. Those are not people that are following you. There are different people out
Mm.
there that you can't hit everybody. So like um I'm learning with this process, and now we have started to do ads everywhere. Like I'm doing ads on Amazon, on
Mhm.
Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, and I'm seeing the return of those ads. And it's very interesting because it's not something I can see, like it's an agency doing the ads for me.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like it would work in my mind, and I didn't know how powerful this could be.
Until you see it
Yeah, because I
working.
was
Yeah.
like, but who are these people seeing these ads? Aren't these the same people following me? But
Yeah.
it's not. And
Yeah.
like email marketing and all of that, like keeping people thinking about your brands and keeping that like always fresh, and new
Yeah.
stuff and promotions and all the things that we like have going on, like telling people what we're doing. I
Yeah.
thought like, oh, on my Instagram I can do that.
Yeah.
But no. So
No, and the
like
cool part is you
I
start building
Mhm.
data on your customer that way too,
Yeah,
which will then help
exactly.
you aim at like, oh, this is for the 25 to 40-year-old woman who
Exactly.
lives like this, looks like this.
Yeah. And who are the
Yeah.
people also coming back? Like we also track now like everybody that's like returning and people that are like subscribing to buy
Yeah.
every month, and so all of that as anything in this brand has been
Yeah.
a learning process for me, and how I can, now that we have 6 products, how can I make it just go everywhere? Like
Yeah.
what are the tools I can use, and ways that, my friends can post, I can post. We'll do, a presence on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, and the ads everywhere. Just, collabing with other brands.
Yeah.
I'm collabing with like some cool brands that I like and admire. I think like you have to be creative to like, how can I make,
Yeah.
this, not just like creative in your social media, it's just like creative in like, what partnerships can I do?
Yeah.
Where can I be? Like, it's fashion week coming up. Can
Show
I
up in
do
the
an
right
event there?
rooms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just, like tell people about it. Like in the beginning, I was so shy to talk about my brand, like, because it's so small. And then sometimes like people will mention, oh, Mari has a body care brand. And I'll be like, oh my God, why you tell them?
Yeah.
So annoying. Like I don't have to tell them about it. But
Yeah.
like that made me more comfortable to talk about it, like pitching to, investors.
Yeah.
That makes you like, oh, this, like the more people you tell, people start talking about your brand
Yeah.
and people start knowing it. And even in like Reddit, there's so many platforms that you can, just seed everywhere that
Yeah.
you can. I think I'm learning that, and it's giving me return. And I think like
Yeah.
just try to go everywhere.
And the beauty is you're doing it authentically, so it's not like you're singing a song that's not true, right? It's like when someone asks you, you're just sharing your own passion, which is so complimentary to this brand. What brands you mentioned brands you admire? What brands do you admire? Like
When I started my brand, I used to look a lot at Vacation. I love them. I
great
think
brand.
they, yeah, I
Yeah.
think they're just like they did something, i- that sunscreen, but they did in a very fun, authentic way,
Mhm.
very cool, back to the 80s. And their branding was just so solid that I think like, if I don't know what their sales were in the
Yeah,
beginning,
yeah,
but I was
yeah.
like, but this is a cool ass brand.
Yeah.
Like, I
It's
don't know if we
different.
can say that in
Yeah,
the
you can.
podcast, but
We,
like,
we
this is a really cool brand, and like
Yeah.
I admire that. And then by Redu, I always
Laredo is
thought
incredible.
like they were sick, and they just, yeah, they're great, and a big inspiration for me. Like I was looking up to them. I think like how, I don't know, like how Glossier became Glossier,
Mhm.
like that it was a blog that then became these huge brands that they were like asking people like what they wanted. And people were telling them back like, oh,
Mhm.
we want like an eyebrow something. Then they would go and make that. I think that's
Yeah.
like super smart. Like we were talking before, like listening to the consumers
Consumer, yeah.
and seeing like what do they want.
Yeah.
I think brands like that. And obviously like I fucking love Rihanna, and I think what she did,
Yeah,
it
incredible.
was like the best, because what she did, it's like something that should have been so obvious, like creating shades for everybody. How did other brands that were out there forever, like a
Not do
Dior
that.
and these that like huge brands in cosmetics and like L'Oreal, whatever, like Maybelline, why didn't you guys think of that? You've been in the market forever. And then it took this one woman that was like, I'm gonna create shades for everyone. And then everyone was like, oh, genius. But like, shouldn't everyone have shades for them, for their color of their skin?
Mhm.
And I think like she just came with like such a breath of fresh air. And I always admired like when also she came out with her lingerie brand, and she was like, no skinny girls, I want all real woman. And
Mhm.
why didn't people think of that before? Look what happened to Victoria's Secret. They just had to do this whole
Yeah.
rebranding because they just wanted skinny girls, and that's not reality for most people. And so
Yeah.
I think like people that like broke like barriers, and what we knew as being what's beautiful, what we were told, what this is, how it should be, these are the colors, these are the sizes and shapes. And when somebody come and be like, no, I'm gonna do something for everyone, I'm like, sick. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to do
It's for
too.
the
I'm like,
people.
I want
Yeah.
people to feel confident in their own skin. You don't have to be skinny or fat or tall. Like in
Yeah.
Brazil, we are one of the most mixed country in the world,
Yeah.
and anybody could be Brazilian. And so we grow up with this knowledge that, like, the Brazilian girl is very confident.
Yeah.
She puts her small bikini and she goes to the beach. It doesn't matter if she has cellulite, if her ass is this big or this small. Literally,
Yeah.
Brazilians are just like proud of their bodies and who they are. And I think that like I wanted every woman to feel like that with the brand.
And I love that so much because I think everything you're saying, it always comes back to it's so obvious how much you care about the person using this product
Yes.
and the care. And it's you've made it even
I
in the
do.
brands you've admired. and I know those all of those brands very well,
Mhm.
and the single thread is like they're listening to their customer, right? Like
Right.
they saw, hey, we have all these shades, we need to be there for those customers.
You're right.
Vacation, like more of a fun thing that they've done with the experiential of the brand, but like I think I still follow the playlist on Spot. They had an amazing like Spotify playlist for poolside,
Very
right?
cool.
Like that was,
Yeah.
and that was such a cool way to bring
Yeah.
people into the ecosystem of the brand, which I think, by the way, there's so many ways you can do that here, like pop up like lymphatic drainage massage offering,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
We
Like,
can put some bossa nova for people to
yes,
listen to.
exactly. But that's what you get to do when you really think about the customer, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um, how has it been being a founder? Like
Um,
more transitioning more into your personal, like, how are you managing all this?
I
It's a
think,
lot.
wow, yeah, it is a lot. It's a very deep question
You have a
because
supportive
I
partner.
think,
That's
yes, I think as a founder, and I think any founder can relate to me, like, and we can relate to each other. I guess doesn't matter if you're like super successful or not. Like you started from somewhere that probably was zero, and I think that's like super scary. I think like the highs are really highs and the lows are really low,
mm,
and you have to learn to pull yourself out of the lows, remembering like where you're going and how the highs feel. And but it's a journey. It's very, if sometimes I don't say this anymore, but I used to say like, oh, if I knew it was so hard, I wouldn't have started. But now I'm like, no, I would have started. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's
because
not for the faint of heart at all.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it is like it's a challenge every day, and it's like learning experience. And like there is a lot of like, you have to really humble yourself because there is so many things that I don't know, and I had to ask and learn, like how am I going to import things from Brazil to here. I had to go through the FDA. I
Yeah.
had to learn importation, everything, how does it work. And the whole like, when we started with Amazon and Revolve and Anthropology, when we had like retailers now, and we have a responsibility with like everything, you just learn so much. Like there is just, I'm very hands-on with the brand. Like I
Clearly. Yeah.
involved in
Yeah.
every step because we don't have a big team. And I just know like n- when we go into the future, and I think like hiring people, now I will know exactly what their jobs look like. I
Mm,
know exactly if a person is gonna take care of like customer service and sending the products and making the boxes. Like I've done all of that stuff.
yes. That
And
right there is such a great point. I feel like a lot of
yeah,
people who build quickly
yes,
don't end up
they
hiring well because
mhm.
you haven't done those jobs yourself.
Yeah,
So how can you know if they're just telling you what they're telling you, right? It's like, but
exactly.
you've done the paperwork yourself,
Yeah,
right?
and
So
I
it's
think it's, if you can do that in your company, I encourage everyone to do it because, learning every aspect, like when you become really big, you will be able to spot faster if something is
mm,
going wrong, if things are out of order, or, you will know who to hire and how you can optimize everything when you know more about your brand. And I think that's my biggest like learning with the brand is like, I'm grateful I get to be hands-on up to now.
yeah,
And then as we grow, I have to give more and more to other people to do, which I'm happy to and I want to
yeah.
do that.
Delegate, yeah,
But yeah, it's like I think being a founder is like your brand is your life. You breathe and you sleep and you wake up and you eat, and the whole time you are thinking about it. How can you make it better? How can you grow here? How can you do that? Like new things that are coming. And so it's just like it's your life. You breathe and live. It's like my baby.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's how do you structure your days? I'm like, is this something where you like you wake up and you know your priorities? Given there's so much, I think that's the other like it's almost the dilemma with founders too. There's so much you can be doing, right?
Yeah.
Like we were just talked about like four ideas. Like yeah, Bossa Nova part. There's so many
Yeah,
ways
there are so many
you can be
things.
doing
Yeah.
things to get more awareness, to get more customers. Are you just reading energy of like, oh, this feels right and this not, or is it more of like, hey, I have a plan and
I
this is I'm
think
going to
it's
follow this
both. I think
plan.
I have a plan. I know what the next products are going to be like, but
Mm,
I also think there is like a gut feeling that tells you, like I want to have a routine and live like a little bit of a normal life. So like I wake up really early and I prioritize my workout and time for me
mm,
first, and then I go into like the day, and I have an office in my house. So that helps a lot because like I am in the office like all day. I don't have an excuse. And so I'm there, I'm creating ideas, I'm managing stuff. Like me and Nicole are on like Zoom like all days. Like so, I try to also like not get myself like too many ideas or too many things. I have to film all of this today. Like I try to like structure things so they are like in different days. And like I know sometimes people are like, you have to grind at all times. Like, and even I said like you have to breathe and leave your brand, but also there is a healthy way to do it. Because
Mm.
I think if you just like killing yourself, like then you kill your creative, you kill like more things that you could be doing and it doesn't feel as genuine. So I think like there is a way sometimes like I'm I don't know, I end my day earlier, like because I'm not feeling like creative anymore, or
Yeah.
I'm not like the day is done and we've done everything we have to do. I allow myself to just have that time and like have a normal dinner or like go play with my dog or just do something for me because if I'm like, oh, I still have like 2 hours, I could do like something before like
Yeah.
dinner or whatever. But like I just always try to like not, you know, be hard on myself, but not be too hard to a point where like it's not enjoyable anymore. It's not genuine anymore.
Hmm.
And so I structure my days in like I feel like maybe how I feel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how to explain that.
No,
It's
no,
just
that's I think
it's
I think you're taking inventory of how you feel,
yeah.
right? Which is also really important. I mean, I know people that live by their calendars
Mhm.
to their own, even for me, sometimes to my own detriment, where I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I had this on at 5 o'clock, so I have to do it. But sometimes your
Yeah.
energy going into it, even though you know you should have ended your day at 3,
Yeah.
now your energy at 5 is going to be like it's,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you have like, we were raising money like the last
yeah.
3 months. So, like, you have those scheduled calls and those things. So, like, you are there, you are present, you are doing everything. But, like, sometimes when our days are easier and we don't have those like calls and schedules and things on the calendar, I allow myself to like, so I can be creative. So, like, because I create everything in the brand. So I
Hmm.
can, like, just allow space to,
Yeah.
and besides that, like, I'm just always like
Yeah, and you can always delegate. That's the beauty. You delegate the blocking and tackling because as a
yeah.
founder, you want to focus on the customer and innovation. What is next in terms of innovation? Like what are you thinking about?
We have products coming out. I don't wanna say what
You
it
don't have to
is
say it.
yet,
Yeah.
but
Unless we drop this later purposely.
yes,
But
we have exciting things coming. I wanna stay in body care. I
it's
think
all in
that's
body
like,
care.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
my big passion, and I think there is still a lot for us to show people, and a lot of products that aren't out yet, that are gonna complement the products that are out. And I wanna go to the face a little bit, but not too much. I wanna stay in the body
Mm.
because, I think it's a market that's growing really fast as well, and there is a lot of space still. And I think for face, there is so much, it's so saturated, and unless you have something really, really innovative,
Yeah, we've talked about
yeah.
TLC under the chin, right?
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
they
I
call it.
don't
Yeah.
encourage,
Yeah.
but we will make products that are for lymphatic drainage, specifically that are for face and body lymphatic. So we will stay in the lymphatic drainage and all of that aspect of the brand, but mostly we'll stay in the body and, gonna continue the
What does that
body
even look like for the
journey.
face? Is that like when you're tired? Like I literally felt that earlier. I was telling them, I was like, I feel like my eyes are like tired. Is that is that drainage stuff or is that different?
I mean, it can be. It can also be other things. Like
Yeah.
it can be like you didn't
Shitty
sleep
sleep.
well, and yeah, it can be many things. But I think like I see, and I also do myself like lymphatic on the face, especially like if I have an event or if I want to look like tighter or sharper, and like the same thing that we are doing for the body, we can do for the
Yeah.
face and vice versa. And
That's interesting.
so I want to create more like tools and products that will help people with the face as well. Like even when I go to like a professional lymphatic drainage, they do your face at the end. So I think like incorporating a product that can do face and body, and you can just, if
Mm.
you're feeling like you're puffy, you wake up and you're like, I don't look as good, or, I drank last night and I want to,
Yeah.
depuff my face really quickly before I go to work. I want to have a product that does that.
Yeah.
And so that's what we are working on
Is there
next.
applications in the future for men or is it like, because that's something I actually don't know enough about.
I mean, yes, we all have a lymphatic
Yes.
system, men
Yes.
and women.
But
And I
obviously it's been
think
so targeted to women.
for women, yes, exactly.
So should I be
And
going to get a lymphatic drainage
yes,
massage?
and the
Yes.
gays all the gays, they love lymphatic drainage.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yes, I encourage all men to also do it,
Yes.
because if you're traveling a lot, if you're drinking, or if your diet is not as healthy, if you're sitting on a desk all day, your
Yeah.
fluids are not going, the way that it should. Like if you're not exercising, like your body isn't moving, water isn't moving, because
Mm.
like you have to think like the lymphatic system. um think of like the bloodstream, like your blood circulation.
Yep.
The blood is pumped with your heart, the heart's pumping the blood, and so there is that happening. Even if you're sitting down, your blood is going because the heart's pumping it. For the lymphatic system, the vessels of the lymphatic system doesn't have a pump. There is like very tiny little pumps that are pumping
You have to
that
literally
water.
massage them
So
to
if you
push it
massage
through.
it, or
Yeah.
if you are working out, if you are jumping, you are helping your lymphatic system to
Interesting.
eliminate toxins and water retention
Yeah.
faster. And so I encourage men as well to do
Yes.
it, to
Okay.
like learn
No, that's good. Honestly, I didn't know
how
because
to
I
do
didn't even
self
know if
lymphatic.
men
Yes,
do it at
men
all.
too.
Yeah.
So obviously, like it's more targeted for girls, but like I think our shower gel and the bar soap, I think the scent can go both ways. I see
Yeah.
a lot of guys are using it. And so I think,
Is Drew's using it?
yeah,
All
Drew's
right, then
using it.
I'll use it if
We
he's using it. He's
Drew's using it. Like our bathroom smells like Gente. Like the whole, like
Yeah.
inside of the shower and outside, because he uses the body butter
The
too.
scents are amazing. And I know you
Yeah,
can't on this podcast can't smell through it,
smell
but it
it.
is they have
Yeah,
that one has amazing scent.
I love the scents. I also like am so passionate about the scent because I combine different things that I love in different products, and I
Yeah.
send it to my lab in Brazil, and I was like, I want to create a scent that reflects this, and I want it to be fresh and like
Yeah.
not too sweet. I don't want it to be too vanilla. I want it to feel like the person is like stepping into the Amazon rainforest.
Mm.
And I think that's what I have when I ask people what they think of the scent, and immediately they're like, it's very fresh and very flowery. And
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
great. That's
Great.
what I
Nailed
wanted.
it. Yeah.
So yeah, I encourage men to use it too. If the scent is too strong, we are coming out with unscented products soon.
Yep.
So there you
Which is on
go
trend
for
as
everybody.
well. Yes.
Yes, yes, because
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people, especially for clean beauty, want to have unscented.
No
And so
fragrance.
yes, no
Yeah.
fragrance, especially us going to the face now too.
Mhm.
We're gonna do unscented products. So stay
Yeah.
tuned.
It's amazing. So excited to see what you come out with. My other question for you, kind of switching it up more into your consumer lens, because you obviously are a consumer yourself of beauty products. I'm always so curious from a founder's perspective, like where do you see shopping behaviors going? Because you are living as a not only as a founder of this brand, but I'm sure you're buying other beauty products, and your friends are. I mean, you have such a great network and community. And something that I'm always curious about is like from your lens, what are you seeing in terms of trends of shopping? Like, are you personally just obviously TikTok's back now, but buying on TikTok Shop? Are you going in stores still for discovery? Like
I think online is just,
dominant, you
yeah,
think?
the future.
Mm,
I
really? So
think,
more than discovery in
because I
store.
used to be that person that I'm like, I'm not gonna buy everything from Amazon. I'm gonna go in the store.
Yeah.
Like I used to go to Sephora always because I wanted to see and touch and everything. But I think that I have become this person that buys everything from
Yeah.
Amazon now because it's so convenient. And I think
But
maybe
then
this
how are
is
you
just
getting
here in the
influenced?
US.
Because what you just mentioned is important. Because when you go in to a store, you can self-influence.
Right.
You can be like, "Oh, this
Yes.
feels good. This smells good. This."
Yeah.
But online, you're trusting that whatever you smell, you're
Yeah.
telling me smells good,
Yeah, I think this is
and
the one
it's
thing about like the whole Instagram, TikTok, and social media, is that people are just very good at creating content. Like
it's
things
so
like,
convincing
it's
and
very
like
convincing,
yeah.
and it's like you can see when a trend starts, like a lot of people start talking about it, and you can see that it's the same reaction. So you kind of trust that. And I
Mm,
think even for our products, like having good content creators and people that like really resonate with the brand and are saying genuine stuff like, I love the smell, you have
yeah.
to try it. Then other people buy because of the smell, other people buy because they see that it works, the for the lymphatic system and all of that. So I think like more and more it's gonna be like
So you
TikTok.
think it's gonna double down that way? And
Yeah, I think so.
so what
Like
do you? Yeah.
I don't know that people are gonna go more to stores that they
Mm.
that's what I'm personally think because I have changed. Like I have started to buy a lot of things from
That's like my
TikTok.
wife. She was a
Yeah.
makeup artist. She's like, "Hey, I
She's a
used to
makeup
never
artist. Yeah.
never trust Amazon." Literally, she would never
Exactly.
buy Chinese third-party products,
Right.
like all this stuff, and now all of a sudden, like, there's a box on her doorstep every day from Amazon,
Yeah,
so
but I think
it's
because also like Amazon had also
they
become
became
so, yeah,
better.
they
Yeah,
know who is selling, and
yeah,
they have a better, I guess they look out more for that stuff and they manage it better, and
and
I
they've
think
done a
it's
good job
fun.
of being more of a content platform.
Hmm.
That's what we always tell our brands too, and it's like,
Yeah.
treat digital as you would, like, a content and media platform, like
Yeah.
the marketplaces.
Yeah.
Like, treat Amazon if someone's entering your store,
Right.
and how are they thinking about it? Are you telling this story
Yeah.
on digital?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's and like you cannot get that at a Sephora.
No,
You
you
can't
can't.
get like
You
the
have 6
founder
you have 6
story.
seconds for you can get
Exactly.
their attention because I do think this is
Yeah.
beautiful packaging, but
Hmm.
generally, it's you can't educate them, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I think like internet is like online is the future, and like people don't have time, people don't want to go places. I just am in my house like ordering stuff. I became that person. I used to not be that person at all.
It's literally like Paige. Yeah,
But
it's the
it gives me
same.
anxiety sometimes to go to stores, and I don't have to get ready and go, and people are like, oh, can I help you? I'm like, no.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier. I think I truly believe I am in a similar boat as you. I believe everything's going digital, although I think this community building aspect in person where people can actually experience the brand,
Yeah.
that's gonna drive the digital
Yes.
purchases,
For sure. I think like
right?
after the pandemic, people are still like trying to connect. And
Mhm.
I think there
Yeah.
is that aspect as well, that like people want to connect with other people, and they want to connect with things that like they can touch and are real, and be a part of a community
Yeah.
that's not just like online in your own Zoom calls. So I do agree with that too. And I think like, for example, we are doing a collab with Aloe Yoga, and we are going to do like a in like in their store. It's gonna be actually in their headquarters, and it's like this. People can come and do workouts, and they can get a coffee and
That's
talk
cool.
about the
Yeah.
brand, and like we're gonna have bossa nova
Yeah.
there and everything.
There it is.
They
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're gonna have like I guess like some aloe products for the girls, and they're gonna have like this workout. So I think like that stuff is very valuable
Mm.
because people come and they talk about it with their friends, and like I think it's like we said before, it's many things you have to attack from many
Yep.
angles. I do think those are more meaningful than just like throwing your stuff in a shell of, a
Yeah.
retailer, and what is this brand, you
Yeah.
know? So, yeah.
That's amazing. And I think I wanna end on, just a more powerful note around, like, this word magnetic because I do believe your brand is, and I think you are too, and I think it's because you've been so authentic to your mission.
Hmm.
But for founders that maybe are just getting started, or even people who are trying to redefine their brand,
Hmm.
like you have, even from personal to physical product,
Yeah.
what are some of the characteristics that you think are most important in brand building? And that could be it could be a word, it could be just a thought around it, but um, I feel like in this digital day and age, it's getting harder and harder to sort of be authentic and stand out. But and even if it's just from personal experience with this brand, what are some of the things that you think make it so magnetic?
It's a hard
Yeah,
question.
I know. I couldn't let you off that easy.
Yeah, oh my God. All the questions have been
Yeah.
hard though. I like it. Um, oh my God, I don't know. There are so many things I would say. I think like you have to believe in your idea first, because like I said before, like when I started, a lot of people were like, what is lymphatic drainage? What is lymphatic system? Like, we don't know what's this. And you have to really be persistent and consistent in that idea. Like, you can't just like, oh, I want to talk about this, but people aren't really paying attention. So I'm going to pivot to this thing. Like, you have to stay in that lane. If you really believe this product can take off,
Mm,
I think like really believing in your product will make people believe, because the way that you talk about it will be like genuine and convincing. um, I also think like it's time. Like we
yeah.
said before, like sometimes you just it's not like you're not capable of doing something, that there's not enough time that had passed yet that you can prove yourself.
Mm,
So I think like knowing that like the best thing you can rely on is time. You have
yeah.
all the time ahead of you to like make a brand be real. And in the beginning, it's not going to be real. In the beginning, this was just literally in my head. I remember trying to explain to my
Isn't it crazy that
creative.
it's sitting here now and like just an
It
idea?
is. And
It's
like I remember like trying to explain to my creatives, like, this is what I envision. This is the brand that I want to build. Like, and the details of like in the boxes you have like the Copacabana and the Ipanema sidewalk. And I told them like I want to have this. And they would put it on the side of the box and this. And I literally had to take a random product and I drew exactly how I wanted. And I like drew the way that I was envisioning in my head, because like sometimes people don't understand what's, in your
yeah,
head.
it's hard to explain it.
So I think like knowing exactly what you're going for and really every day you're
Yeah,
persisting. Like I've seen this brand grow now into like I didn't even
so
know it
awesome.
was possible, because I in the beginning it was kind of discouraging. People didn't really know what was lymphatic system, what is the lymphatic
Yeah,
what is lymphatic drainage, like how am I going to do for myself, and I have to do all these videos explaining, and every day was like, how are we going to explain how to do lymphatic drainage in your legs? Let's do a
mm,
bunch of videos. How are you going to explain it? Then people started to be like, oh,
yeah,
my stomach is getting
education.
smaller.
Yeah,
How? Like I want to learn this more. Like what are the benefits? Like I think like really believing in your idea
yeah.
and pushing it, and it's not going to be easy every day, and some days you're going to feel like, what am I doing? Am I stupid? Like sometimes I just like, even last week, like I'm thinking like, is this going to work? Like,
Yeah.
but you just
But
have
it's
to
I think
pick
that's a
yourself
health by
up.
the way, that's healthy. Because if you're not asking yourself that, that's like
Yeah,
then you're
exactly.
just a narcissist or whatever, like you're like, "Oh, this is gonna be the
Yeah,
best thing ever." But
but I
actually
think,
that
yeah,
is a really great answer, and I do believe that. I think you said it earlier, you were like, whether it was you or Drew, you were like 10, if once you do something for 10 years or you're hustling something, there's almost no
exactly.
way you
Yeah,
don't make an
you
impact,
have to allow
especially
time.
when it came from a really, really authentic belief
Hmm.
where you weren't changing the story every day to fit
Yeah.
another mold. You were just
Yeah, you have to
yeah,
persist in your idea, and you come out with a product, and this is the idea and this is the story. Keep going.
yeah,
Eventually someone is going to look at you and be like, "Oh, yeah, I
yeah.
resonate with that." And more people, like you can't like just
No, and
get
that's the
everybody's
power of
attention
that's literally a
one
great
day
answer because that's what a magnet, right? You're just constantly attracting and adding,
constantly.
and you don't run out of energy as a magnet
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah,
true.
and even if
Yeah,
you attract one person in
yeah,
every day, that's fine.
yeah,
That's still good.
yeah.
Keep going.
Well, I can't wait to see where this goes, and this was such an amazing conversation. I
Thank you
can't
so
wait to
much for
share it
having
and share
me.
your story. Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
great.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Woo!